Wait For It is a show about the way we feel about our bodies. Consequently, each episode may include references to gaining and losing weight, eating disorders, weight loss surgery, and weight stigma. If these topics are triggering to you, please take care while listening. We have links to support resources for anyone who may need them in our show notes. Wait for it. I can't remember a time when I wasn't thinking about my weight. I was a kid with a huge appetite, and I remember the other kids and some adults would always say, "You keep eating like that, you're gonna get fat." I remember in middle school PE, whenever we had to play basketball and the coach would yell out, "Shirts versus skins," I immediately hoped to be on the shirt team. Even in college, I remember my friends used to pinch my nipples and then laugh when I would get upset. And at any of these individual times, I was objectively not fat. But with every incident that occurred with my body, it firmly put weight in the forefront of my mind. I wasn't always certain what it was to have a good body or even an okay body, or most of all, how to be okay with my body. I dreamed of having the ideal physical qualities. Muscular arms, I wanted to be tall, I wanted a beard, I wanted abs. I didn't want to be afraid of taking my shirt off. I wanted to be attractive. But I knew that being fat wasn't attractive. So I didn't want to be fat. However, one day, I got fat. It happened in the last 10 years. It felt inevitable in a way, like the people who said it would happen were prophets. They were right about my eating habits. I felt ashamed. I tried to cover it up with the way that I look and dress, even down to the smallest accessory, anything that draws attention away from my weight. Even my personality feels a lot like a performance. I feel like I have to have a better personality than most people because I'm fat. If I'm mean or rude or get something wrong, I know the first thing folks are going to talk about is my weight. So I try to be funny and kind and always put others at ease. I generally make an effort to be relatable and agreeable. And a lot of that is who I am, whether I was fat or not. But because I'm thinking about my weight constantly, the stakes of every social interaction feel higher to me. I was talking with a good friend of mine, Jessica, and I asked her to describe my personality.
Good question. Really warm, outgoing, funny. I think that you have a really high level of emotional intelligence, but I think that sometimes that can be a blessing and a curse because you have your self-awareness it spans wide and long and all of that. And with self-awareness comes a lot of pain.
Yeah, with great self-awareness comes great responsibility.
100%. So you are a soulmate friend and you are like a life talk friend and you're not afraid to be vulnerable. You not only tolerate the things that are uncomfortable, but you're like, let's get in it.
Jess is a friend I met as an adult. Not from school, not at work, but working out together at this group fitness gym back in 2015. We both loved cracking jokes, and we hit it off pretty quickly. At the time, we were both trying to lose weight, and we supported each other in our goals. We showed up to work out together at the gym and bonded sharing details of our lives. Jess is actually a therapist, and the type of therapist you'd want to be friends with. We often talked about weight. And years ago during those discussions, I remember I told her my reason for wanting to lose weight. Back then, what I would always obsess about was having a perfect moment. And that's because of like the kind of the way that love and relationships are depicted. Like it's always thin people falling in love. You know what I mean? It's always like getting ripped, falling in love. It's about somebody losing 100 pounds, meeting someone, falling in love. And I feel like for a long time, and even, I mean, I'm almost a little embarrassed to say, but like to some extent today, it's always about like finding that perfect moment. And the only way I can get there is if I am a certain size.
So what happens in that moment?
I'm the right size and, it's just like a romantic comedy. You know what I mean? I meet the right person. I got that slick new promotion at the job. I'm making good money.
Mm-hmm.
All of those are aligning, and it's a romantic enough setting that I'm meeting this person like I'm the perfect guy. I look the right way.
Mm. So do you feel that where you are with your body and your self-image aligns with you finding your person? Those are mutually exclusive to you.
Yes. In my mind, if I'm thinking about my weight, then obviously others are thinking about my weight too. It's probably working against me when they're assessing whether or not I'm an acceptable person. And that's why I'm always trying to make sure I'm giving good personality. And if I'm working this hard thinking about the stakes of social interaction, then you can probably imagine that for me, the romantic stakes are even higher. After my last breakup, I started spiraling even more about my physical qualities. I truly wondered if this was happening because I'm fat. I think about weight the same way I think about race. In moments of rejection or exclusion, as a Black person, race always comes up in my mind. It's a regular running background anxiety in my head. Did I not get the job because I'm Black? Are they staring at me because I'm Black? What does it mean that I'm the only Black guy here? And after a breakup, the ultimate rejection, there are similar questions, but all about my weight. Would it have happened like this to a smaller person? Did they give me a shot because of my personality and then couldn't get over how fat I was? If I weren't fat, could this have gone the distance? I'm 39 now, and it seems like everywhere I look, perfect moments are being had by other people. People are finding the love of their lives, getting married, buying houses, having kids. And I'm realizing I'm not even talking about moments anymore. They look like seemingly perfect lives. And of course, I want all of those things. I think I deserve all of those things. But right now, I'm really talking about something a little smaller. I remember one time I was sitting in a backyard with some friends, and I was eating potato chips or something with crumbs, and I got some in my beard and on my shirt, and I was kind of a mess. My then girlfriend came over laughing and confirmed, saying, "You're kind of a mess." She wiped the crumbs out of my beard, then she kissed me on the side of my forehead and put her arm around my shoulders. I felt the best I'd felt in a long time, and often I think about that moment. We broke up 2 months later. I think breaking up marred the perfection of that moment. But at the time, I had some hope. Because at that moment, I felt loved in a way that I don't feel like I often get to feel loved. I wasn't certain that anyone new would love me again as a fat man. Am I even an eligible bachelor? Again, I don't remember when I started thinking like this. I do see reinforcing evidence all around me. On the TV show The Bachelor, every dude that's selected is either thin or incredibly in shape, and comments are made about how attractive their bodies are. On Love is Blind, despite that they're actively taking physical attraction out of the equation initially, the contestants are always trying to figure out how hot their potential mate is, or, in some cases, how thin their potential mate is. And don't even get me started on The Biggest Loser, a show that spent years sending the message that life didn't even start until you lost the weight. From getting ripped abs with most issues of Men's Health magazine, to video vixens, swimsuit models, and the countless ads preaching the effectiveness of whatever new weight loss methods that can be imagined up, nearly every popular piece of media we consume reinforces the message that we're all supposed to be thin at the bare minimum. You could be anything you want to be, just don't be fat. And as a fat person, I hear this messaging loud and clear. Fat folks are seen for their non-sexual qualities, hence me trying to have a perfect personality. They don't get to be just hot. And if I don't get to be hot, how will I ever get my moment? How could I ever become the perfect man having the perfect moment? A lot of my adult life has been spent waiting. Waiting for everyone not to be paying attention before I take my shirt off and get into the pool. Waiting for the flight attendant to surreptitiously hand me a seatbelt extender. Waiting until I lose a few pounds before I buy new clothes. Just a lot of waiting. It's felt like waiting to be perfect before I truly start to live. This show not only tells the stories of those waiting, but of those who can't keep the weight off their minds. I'm Ronald Young Jr., and this is Wait For It. Waiting. 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 Wait for it. Wait for it. The wait. The wait. The wait. The wait. Waiting. Wait for it. I want to tell you about a new show from Radiotopia Presents that we're really excited about. It's called Shocking, Heartbreaking, Transformative. Host Jess Shane puts out an open call on Craigslist for aspiring documentary subjects and selects 4 to work with. Together, they pull back the curtain on what really goes on behind the scenes of your favorite nonfiction shows, showing what it takes and what it costs to collect, edit, and consume stories about people's real lives. Radiotopia presents Shocking, Heartbreaking, Transformative, out now on your preferred podcast platform. Wait for it. So presently, I'm on a bit of a thought journey. And because that journey of how I've perceived perfection, acceptance, and desirability is all informed by my constant thinking about my weight, I thought this would be a great place to start the show. I'm going to take you with me on that journey, but I want you to know right up front that a lot of the thoughts I've had on this journey are a little flawed. So bear with me. In the age of social media, everyone has discovered their community, and one of those communities is the body positive space. And body positive might not be the right descriptor to cover it. What I've found is a lot of folks discussing fat liberation, self-acceptance and love, and even pushing against the conventional standards of what it is to be attractive. It's more than just body positivity, but that seems to be the catch-all name for anything that's not, well, the norm. It was in this community that I thought I might get to my perfect moment sooner. Maybe I was already hot here. I follow a lot of women plus-size influencers on Instagram. They're exactly like any other influencer, except they're not straight-sized. Straight-sized meaning thin, conventionally small, whatever. Initially, I followed them for the same reason that most straight cisgender men follow anyone on Instagram. They're all attractive. However, beyond my problematic gaze, I found a lot of these women were sharing a lot of useful information about loving themselves. Things like, love your body at any size. Roles are beautiful. All you need to have a summer body is to have a body in the summer. I love these positive messages. I'm working through ways to truly internalize them. So I find myself scrolling through these accounts a lot. In between positive messages, most times a plus-size influencer's account is the same as any influencer's account. A lot of pictures of them looking great in clothes, going to exotic locations, and doing fun and silly dances. I came across one influencer in particular who had pictures of her that don't shy away from rolls and stretch marks, in some cases even celebrating them, which is a marker of pride for plus-size influencers seeking to normalize all bodies. One day, while scrolling through this particular account, I saw something that made me stop short. It was this influencer and her boyfriend. And it wasn't her having a boyfriend that made me stop, but that he was straight-sized. And I'm understating straight-sized. He was ripped. And I actually went to his account to confirm, and there's a literal video of this man coming up out of a pool set to the song Way Too Sexy by Drake. By any definition you choose, this was certainly a man with a summer body. Logically, I knew that this woman choosing a partner has nothing to do with me or how much I weigh. But I also knew that seeing this plus-size woman with this straight-sized man made me feel like even in the circles that are supposed to be safe and affirming, here is Ronald, too fat to be a candidate for his perfect moment. It still felt like rejection, just not from a place I was expecting. This was all too much, so I texted my friend Myra, who also followed this influencer, to help me make sense of my thoughts.
I'm Myra Mia. I am a freelance writer, and I'm the founder of Plush DMV, which is a fat liberation social group, and I identify as a fat, queer Latinx woman.
I forwarded Myra the picture of the influencer and her boyfriend with the following text. I have conflicting feelings about what her partner looks like and how that makes me feel about being fat.
I totally get where you're coming from, but there are so many fat women with fat partners. I think you've internalized some feels and are correlating your worth with your weight.
I feel like people keep saying that, but the external messaging keeps reinforcing my feelings.
Oh, for sure. I'm not trying to invalidate your feelings and the very real reality out here for fat people. We are 100% treated differently. I guess my way of handling it is saying fuck you and living my life in the way I've been so afraid to for so long. But it is easier for me in a lot of ways because I'm a woman and fat women are definitely more desired.
That last part, about fat women being more desired, it kind of validated a feeling I'd been having for a while, but felt weird about saying. It feels like right now that fat women are having a bit of a moment. When I think about that influencer and most plus-size influencers, they are beautiful, with thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands, and even sometimes millions of adoring fans. These are women who have been accepted by conventional norms as hot and desirable in a lot of ways. And if they're hot, then the rules for hot people apply to them as they are. Their road to perfection has been shortened. They don't need abs or anything else. They've made it. I haven't seen that same enthusiasm for fat men. I assumed I might find it in body-positive spaces, but that really hasn't been the case. I think in some ways I've been upset by this, and it's not solely jealousy. I think in some ways I felt like I've earned that affection as well. I've had crushes on fat women, I've dated fat women, and I have loved fat women. It seems like in a lot of ways society is only just now catching up to something that I've known for ages. And again, I'm here in this size-affirming space looking for a perfect moment. But why would anyone choose me when they have way better options? Now, I also recognize how hard it's been for everyone who's fat that's not a straight man, especially for women who have to deal with all the marginalizations of being a woman and all of the marginalizations of being fat. But trying to have this conversation in a nuanced way makes me feel like I sound like this guy.
You know what kills me about women is the hypocrisy and the contradiction. Yes, queen, slay, queen. Yes, queen, slay. Y'all claim womanhood and about sisterhood and support for your sister, but y'all won't fucking be real and go, sister, put the eclair down. This ain't it. It's treadmill time.
This guy being Ari Spears, a fat comedian and former Mad TV cast member who went on a tirade about singer Lizzo's body after being asked about her music. In his tirade, he even attempts to be self-aware, calling into question his own weight.
I'm sorry, listen, I ain't the most in shape nigga in the world, but I still, when you funny and you got swagger and confidence and you decent looking, I think I'm at least handsome, you get pussy. But a woman that's built like a plate of mashed potatoes is in trouble.
There's something in the way he's talking that feels specifically gendered and frankly hatery. And honestly, I'm thinking about my own desirability here. But I don't want to be a hater, and I'm not trying to stop anyone's shine. I want to shine too. But obviously, I don't have the answers. So I decided to call in an expert. Hello, Wait For It listeners. I hope you're enjoying the show. And I want to invite you to check out another Oh It's Big Ron Studio show called Leaving the Theater. Leaving the Theater is a television and film review podcast that started with me reviewing movies as I walked out of the theater immediately after seeing them. It's now expanded to include me reviewing television and streaming titles on my couch as well. These are the freshest take on what we just watched, and it's a lot of fun. On each episode, I talk with my movie-loving friends or colleagues from other podcasts, and we rate whatever we watched from 1 to 5 stars. If you're an overthinker like me, you'll enjoy agreeing and disagreeing with my analysis. Again, that's Leaving the Theater, available everywhere you listen to podcasts. Wait for it.
My name is Dr. Caitlin Gunn. My PhD is in feminist studies, and I currently work as the pedagogy lab director at the Center for Black, Brown, and Queer Studies, and I am a fat, Black, queer woman.
Okay, so I brought in Dr. Gunn to talk specifically about the thoughts I was having about this influencer and desirability and why I was left feeling excluded. Dr. Gunn actually did a great job of articulating the exact questions I had here.
Like, what's going on that she's chosen someone who's very conventionally attractive? How is she choosing partners? And why is physical attractiveness of that kind seemingly really high on her list of qualities she likes? Shouldn't she get it?
Shouldn't she get it? Or why is she dating this ripped guy? In answering that question, I concluded that it was because she's attractive enough to have the option of dating whomever she wants. Therefore, the fat men of the world are no longer in her pool of acceptable options. However, Dr. Gunn adds some nuance here that kind of turns my thoughts on their head.
For women, how well we fit into societal beauty norms can be very high on the list of importance for society, but also on a smaller scale for partners, family, and for the people around us. In the most extreme cases, women can be evaluated entirely based on how conventionally attractive they are. Men are rarely evaluated solely on physical attractiveness, especially straight men. There are usually other factors that come into play there, like how successful they are, how smart they are, etc. So some of the uneasiness you might have felt looking at a fat woman choosing a very physically fit partner is that on the surface, it breaks the way we are conditioned to think about how women choose partners.
So I hate to admit this, but Aries Spears kind of did stumble onto some nuance when he said,
I ain't the most in shape nigga in the world, but I still, when you funny and you got swagger and confidence and you decent looking, I think I'm at least handsome.
I understand that this is a privilege for cis straight men, but for me, this doesn't exactly feel like an advantage, because while I know the importance personality has in deciding on a partner, nobody is talking about Michael B. Jordan's rock-hard personality when he takes his shirt off.
Your body is insane.
Okay, y'all.
If ultimately someone's going to have to settle for my personality, despite that I'm fat, and because of all the other parts of me that make me great, this confirms what I've been thinking from the beginning. My personality has to be flawless. So who gets to be attractive? Because if fat men can't be deemed attractive without considering other factors, it certainly feels like I'll need to change something physically in order to be considered a suitable partner for that Instagram influencer. As I said before, these are women who have been accepted by conventional norms as hot, and if they're hot, then the rules for hot people apply to them. They don't need abs or anything else. They've made it.
But that line of thinking is kind of dangerous, though, because one, what's deemed attractive is ever-changing and so layered in fat phobia and racism and all the isms that it renders that question kind of flaccid. And two, there's a kind of assumption underneath that line of questioning that's just saying, why isn't she choosing someone of similar value? And once that question is asked, you have to start interrogating the value you've assigned to fat women.
This was tough to hear because I know this is a me problem. At the base, it's just me wanting someone I like to like me back. I like you. That should be enough reason for you to like me back. But logically, I know that's not always the case. Another reason it's tough to hear Dr. Gunn talk about value is because it made me realize I thought of myself as less valuable. So rather than showing up to size-affirming spaces as a whole person, I showed up with expectations to be made whole through desire. This puts pressure on women to validate me. Women who have every right to choose whomever they want, fat or straight-sized. I hate that I've thought any of this. And I hate that I felt this way. It goes back to what I was saying before. I don't want to stop anyone shine, I also want to shine.
But I don't want to overstate the desirability of fat women either, right? Like, because I can see from a marginalized position, as you watch what's acceptable for women's bodies change, it may seem like, oh, they're living the good life over there. But not long ago, I was a very fat woman on a dating app. And trust me, from our lived experience, being fetishized and desired in ways that are not indicative of being truly valued, just sexualized, it isn't a comfortable feeling either. So, I can relate to when all of these things are sort of cast through fat phobia, you never get a comfortable experience in a fat body when you're seeking out a partner, when you're navigating the politics of desirability.
I would definitely agree that the experience hasn't been comfortable. And while I was wrapped up in my own desirability, talking with Dr. Gunn gave me a lot of insight into women's perspective on dating and attraction, and it certainly makes me consider what options and struggles everyone else has. But in some ways, it brings me right back to square one, a place where I'm confused about my own desirability. But there's something else that Jess said that I think is important to note. When I was telling her about what my perfect moment was, she mentioned something that kind of refutes most of my thinking about when it could possibly happen. She talked about this moment she had when she was spending time with her now husband, Nate, in the early days of their relationship. While I was expecting a perfect moment to come as a result of the love I find in a relationship from being someone's perfect man,
my love story is evidence to the contrary. And yes, I was probably at my most fit when I met Nate, but like we've been through a lot of ups and downs, and like both of us talk about kind of where we're at in terms of how we see ourselves. But I think that I had a perfect moment after I had been dating Nate for like 6 months or something. I wasn't sure he was my person, but I remember thinking I was in such a good mental space that I remember saying out loud that Nate's great and I love him and I hope to see our relationship grow, but he's not the missing puzzle piece. Like he's awesome. Like he's an accent, but having him doesn't change how I feel about myself or how I view my world. So I was like, no matter what, it's not going to make or break me. Like I'm into it. It's like a nice garnish on the life plate, but I think I'd be okay without it. And that to me felt very calming. Like I could ground myself in knowing that like he wasn't the piece that completed the picture. That was the perfect moment.
That's interesting. I always thought that someday I would wake up and everything would just be in place. Everything would be all right. I will have worked hard enough. I will have accomplished all my goals. I'll have everything I want. And what would be generated in my life would be these moments of peace and contentment, and everything is okay. In some ways, I'm satisfied with where I am presently. In other ways, I'm not. But overall, I don't feel okay. Like even in my wildest imaginations, there's no version of me that is fat and feeling okay. And I think that's truly the problem. And it's certainly a problem with my own thinking. But I still want to push back on society and say all of us are contributing to whatever it is that excludes fat people from being able to have flawless dreams in which our bodies don't have to change in order to feel like we're settled wherever we are. Myra is right. I do equate my weight with my worth. And I have no idea if I'll ever feel content enough alone to have a perfect moment like Jess did by herself. And I don't believe that being thinner will solve any of the problems I have with how I feel about myself. So I really have no idea what I'm waiting for. And that's what this podcast is about. The very complicated, nuanced thoughts, stories, and lives of fat folks and folks everywhere who also constantly think about their weight. Because I'm not the only one waiting. My countless interactions with other fat folks who've been trying to lose weight for a significant portion of their lives has shown me that weight loss and weight generally is an obstacle for folks trying to live their lives. Folks are waiting to lose weight before they commit to going to their high school reunion, waiting to lose weight before they feel like their parents will be proud of them, waiting to lose weight before they shoot their shot at love. Working through this idea that there's more to do inside about the why we wait, why we try to change before accepting ourselves and living our lives, means that we're going to have to confront the very ugly thoughts that some of us have during the wait. I want to dig into the nuance and those ugly thoughts and hear how folks are handling themselves, even if it's not wrapped in a perfect bow. Today was dealing with a moment in the present, with the thoughts I'm having right now. What makes me feel like I'm waiting to live life, and what's required of me to have a perfect moment? But next week, we'll take a trip to the past and deal with me then. Because as I mentioned before, I wasn't always fat. Wait For It is a production of Oh It's Big Ron Studios and is a proud member of Radiotopia from PRX, a network of independent, creator-owned, listener-supported podcasts. Discover audio with vision at radiotopia.fm. This episode was produced and written by me, Ronald Young Jr., with editing from Sarah Deely. Sound design and mixing from the Reverend John Delore of Starlight Diner. Show and episode art by Heather Wilder. Theme music from Jey Red, with additional music from Mass Potential, the artist DT, and the mysterious Breakmaster Cylinder. Special thanks to Jessica Taylor-Dickin, Myra Maia, and Dr. Caitlin Gunn. You can follow me on Twitter, Threads, Instagram, and TikTok at Oh It's Big Ron. That's at OHITSBIGRON. You can find out more about this show and other Oh It's Big Ron Studios shows by following us on Instagram at Oh It's Big Ron Studios and on Twitter at Oh It's Big Ron Stew. That's STEW. If you have a story about weight that you'd like to share with us, shoot us an email at wait@ohitsbigron.com. That's WEIGHT@ohitsbigron.com. Wait For It will be back next week. Thanks for listening. Wait for it. If the people who decided that the attractive people were the most attractive had decided that they liked them all thick, like, we'd be in a different world right now.
I would be a goddess. We would be sitting on our thrones.
Yeah, we'd be like,
Who's coming over for snacks?
Radiotopia.